We are once again meeting with you on our weekly get-together with the press and just update on the week. And I'll start it off. I'm Pat Flowers, Democratic leader in the Senate. And some of you witnessed last night in our work on the floor, and that was all about trying to get back to work and get bills scheduled that have been stuck on the president's desk. And so it was arduous getting through that process, but we got through it, and that's 15 to 20 more bills that are now going to be hopefully heard in committee. They've at least been assigned, and it'll be up to the committee chairs now to make that happen. As you saw last night, and as you've seen over the last several weeks, we've got a bipartisan coalition that are working together to get important things done for Montanans, and we're going to keep fostering that relationship as much as possible and find places where we can agree on important values and important issues that we can address for Montanans. We think that to a certain degree, we got two examples yesterday of where we think GOP leadership, both in the Senate and really at the federal level, our federal delegation, are out of touch with what's important to Montanans. You know, at the Senate level, what they've continued to bring us and prioritized are attacks on the judiciary and culture war issues. That's been the theme. There's been other things that have come, but there's been a lot of that. And yet there are a lot more important issues from our perspective that should be coming to the table and that we've talked about over and over again, like property tax, health care, affordable housing, child care. Those are the things that Montanans are sitting at home fretting about how they're going to pay their bills, and that's what we should be focusing on. Yet we're not so far. And so we're hoping that eventually by pushing some of these bills along, we're going to get to a broader set of issues where we can solve what we think are the most important problems that Montanans are facing. The other example of just GOP leadership being out of touch is what we heard from our federal delegation yesterday. And they talked a lot about their priorities. They talked a lot about bills that they were running and their accomplishments, but they didn't talk once about the fear and anxiety and loss that Montanans are feeling because of the chaos that's being created out of the new administration. And we're hearing it daily from our constituents, how much fear there is out there and panic. And it's astounding to me that our federal delegation doesn't even acknowledge that that's an issue. And to me, it's just such a clear example is that there's just no communication between their constituents, Montana voters, and our federal representatives and senators in Washington, D.C. I think they need to open their doors and start having real conversations with real Montanans about how the chaos that's being created is affecting lives in Montana. At this point, we're going to just continue to focus and shine a bright light on the issues that we think are important to Montanans and try and get our Senate efforts focused in that direction. A good example is Senator Harvey is bringing his paid family leave bill, Senate Bill 325. It's a staple of our Democratic platform, and we're bringing it again. We also hope that the comments that were made by the Chief Justice yesterday somehow break through and resonate for some Republicans. I applaud his kind of blunt presentation of, as he said, the elephant and the donkey in the room. Thought that was well put and just pointed to the real threat that those attacks on the judiciary have on all of us as Montanans and our ability to find support from our Constitution. And he, I thought, described that pretty eloquently. I'm hoping that's going to resonate. I'm hoping the work that Governor Roscoe has done in the Rotunda, in the recent column that he wrote, is also going to break through, and they'll recognize the real risks of undermining our judiciary and what that's going to do to our government in this state. With that, well, let me touch on one more thing. One positive that came out of yesterday was Medicaid was heard in our Public Health Committee in the Senate. It passed out of the committee the same day. We're hoping to see it on the floor potentially this week, and conceivably it could be on the governor's desk as early as next week, which would be a huge benefit for 82,000 Montanans that are relying on Medicaid for their health care and their health insurance, and also huge support for rural Montana that relies on that program to ensure that there's adequate health care across rural Montana. So that will be a huge win for all of us, and I think for Montana, and I'm really hoping we can push that out of the Senate and get it on the governor's desk very soon. With that, turn it over to Katie.
Hello. Last week in the House, we had a right to repair bill heard in Business and Labor by Representative Paul Tuss. A very good hearing. This bill did make some waves and has had some good call outs. I think it's a very popular policy. Democrats have brought this bill over and over again for at least the last 3 to 4 sessions. And I hear he had a good hearing. And so we're excited about that bill, and we'll see where that goes. House Bill 83 by Representative Tyson Running Wolf is going to the governor's desk. This is the MMIP account that can be funded, and while there's not money in it currently, it allows money to be put into this fund. So that's very good, and we're proud that that's gone so quickly and moved to the governor's desk. There's a public lands rally tomorrow, Wednesday, that, well, it's not put on by our party or anything like that. A lot of conservation groups in the building will be supporting it, and I think it's going to be a good rally, and I'm excited for that. So I'm just giving that a little bump. Representative Carlin has 2 bills I just want to flag. We have 2 child care bills. One is expansion of Best Beginnings programming for eligibility, and then the other is what we call it's a child care workers categorical eligibility. So if you're a worker in a child care facility, you're categorically eligible to have your child receive this Best Beginnings funding for child care. And so the idea is that folks that work there will be able to stay and work because their kids will also be taken care of. So those are exciting. We are hopeful those will go through. We are finally starting to hear some child care stuff, and that's really important. Prior authorization bill from Representative Carlin, I think is a very popular concept. So if there's a chronic health condition and you switch insurance, currently you have to jump through all these prior authorization hoops to receive the medications or treatment for your chronic health condition. And this would say, look, we've already been receiving it. This person has a chronic condition. They don't have to jump through the hoops again with the new insurance. So it is just a super helpful piece of policy for people that suffer from chronic health disease. So we'll see where that goes. But those are the bills I wanted to call out. And that's all I have right now. So we'll be happy to take questions.
2 easy questions. The 2 child care bills
Yes.
from
The hard
Carlin.
one's coming.
Those are Friday?
Not
You know-
hard. It
you know where we
says
might end
child
up.
care bills, business and labor Friday morning.
Okay, both of them.
Yes,
Okay.
and the prior
Thanks.
authorization one is also on Friday morning in business and labor, so he'll be very occupied.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I think they're the first child care bills we are hearing in the House that I don't want to put I'm like maybe, but it's.
There was
can't
one from
recall.
Romano.
Oh, it might have died and
360.
okay.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to see,
Okay.
but none that I've heard on the floor, I believe. So I'm hopeful we'll get on some childcare stuff here. Yeah.
Representative Sullivan, last week we heard several MIPA and environmental bills.
Yes.
And of those, I know that a couple of them passed through third reading, but I know 291, the clean air one, was not scheduled for third reading and is up today. Just
Yes.
procedurally, is that still within the correct window?
So I've been flagged of this just recently, that there is question whether or not, there's a rule and I can't cite it right now, if it was scheduled fast enough for the rules we have. And actually, we're currently investigating that, so I don't have an answer today.
Because I was curious, I was going
Yeah.
through my updates to make sure I had, knew what was happening last
Yeah.
week, and I was like, wait, this should have gone through third, but I knew there was an amendment, but I wasn't sure
That's
where the
right.
window was.
Yeah,
With the Saturday session.
That's right, with the Saturday, and then it takes a few days to engross, and so we're doing our calendar to see. Unfortunately, I don't have the rules answer for you right here, but it was in question.
Is that something that you anticipate bringing up today during the session?
Probably not on the floor. I think we're just doing like a rules check
Okay.
right now. I think Representative Carlin actually is out there hunting around for rules clarification, but we'll have to see. If it could, right? We could get there, but no update. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Somebody
it's
flagged that for me
interesting.
yesterday, and I was
well,
like,
it could be.
seems like an underhanded way to maybe take something off the table
Yeah.
if it doesn't go
Well, and
through the
like-
process all the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the rules, we have the rules. We'll have to see if this is part of that. I don't know, yeah.
Another question for you, and
Yeah.
we're just going to kind of ramp up the intensity.
Yeah, sure. Super. Thanks for the heads up.
We heard a lot of things on the Senate side yesterday about speed of going through bills, getting
Yeah.
House bills heard on the Senate side.
Mhm.
Is that a concern for you in the House and hearing Senate bills? Do you feel that the Speaker of the House is getting Senate bills referred at a quick enough pace that you feel comfortable with the pace of
So,
affairs?
I suppose this kind of just talks about like calendaring. House bills that have moved to the Senate are okay because they're meeting the transmittal deadline.
Mhm.
Senate bills that are coming to the House are meeting the transmittal deadline. We are hearing some Senate bills already, mostly House bills still, but it would be typical and usual for us to start having those Senate bills kind of come in as we have time, and that's normal. So I don't hear, my understanding from Speaker Lear is that House bills that move over within the deadline to the Senate are fine via the calendar, that we'll hear Senate bills as we get them, but there's not a giant rush to do so and that's normal. And so on our end, things are moving to the Senate per usual. Senate side hearings for House bills, we're gonna have to monitor. Currently okay. We'll have to keep an eye on it.
Okay.
This is House only now,
Mhm.
so the senator would have to comment on the reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious from your side. I feel like
Yes.
you just haven't gotten to talk about these issues as much.
That's right. So we are still within the calendar, and the House bills are moving typically and normally to the Senate.
Is there anything that
Yeah.
you are concerned we're going to kind of get into a rush in these final weeks before transmittal?
Again, on our end, because we're meeting the calendar deadline for House bills, so far it's functioning as is normally. We'll have to see and reevaluate as transmittal comes and or passes, and then if things are still slow, that would then become a House concern that we would have to press on. Yeah. Sorry, it's like
No,
the
but-
House
but
is moving things
As
along,
it's working,
right?
so
Yeah.
no big issues that you're concerned about
Not-
getting into that kind of crunch
Not
period
yet
where we.
for House bills.
Okay.
That's right.
Nice.
It's less exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
follow up from last night,
Mhm.
the bills that you referred, was there any rhyme or reason to those bills, or they were just the ones that had been waiting the longest?
Yeah, my understanding was Senator Kazmaier just started from the oldest bills that had been sitting the longest and just went down the list, so no rhyme or reason beyond that.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned wanting to get to work on some priority items, and what if are there bills that the president has not referred to committee or scheduled on the floor that are priorities for you?
Well, a couple of them I've already talked to him about, and he did get scheduled, which I appreciated. One was the pay plan bill, which is now in committee or signed to committee, but I don't believe has been heard. And the other is the inflation adjustment to schools. That, I think that's House Bill 15, and he did assign that, which I appreciated. So those are a couple that he has moved forward. Obviously, Medicaid was another priority for us. He did get that scheduled promptly, and that is coming out. So we'll keep working on those high priority bills. The larger issue is kind of just the backlog of House bills. And granted, they've all passed transmittal, and so they're not at risk that way. But it is not normal to have 100, 150, I don't know how many bills now are on his desk, so to speak, on the president's desk. But that is not normal. Normally, the bills come in, you assign them out, the president routinely just assigns them out to committee, and then the committee chairs get to decide kind of what their schedule looks like and kind of designs a practical and logical approach to getting those heard in committee and giving the public an opportunity to weigh in and be a part of this process. And for some reason, that is not happening, and that's what we were trying to do last night, is to jumpstart that process and just say, let's get moving. If you're not going to schedule these, we will schedule this. And I hope that the president will start picking up the pace and getting those assigned to committees. There's still a lot of latitude at the committee level on when bills are heard, but let's at least get them assigned to the committees so we have some sense of what the workload is there, and we can weigh that against the available time that remains to make sure that we give bills a fair hearing and we give the public a chance to weigh in on those bills.
You mentioned, obviously, there were those 3 bills that you spoke to the president about to get referred. He said earlier in his press availability that if members come up and talk to him and want something moved along, he's been happy to do that. Is there a reason that you haven't taken that approach to try to move more, or maybe have every member move certain bills that they feel are important to them, and rather decided to take this tactic?
Yeah, well, this tactic was offered by Senator Kazmaier, not by me. And we are not one person. We are, in fact, individuals that make our own choices. And he made the choice to kind of force this, and we supported him on it. And I have talked to the president about getting bills moving, and as I said earlier, he has responded, and I'll continue to do that on the priority bills. I think the larger issue, I've mentioned it on the floor a couple times, how important it is to take care of this backlog. I don't know how much more clear I can be that should be a priority for the president to get those scheduled. And I'm not going to kind of badger him daily with, let's get this bill and this bill. It should just be routine. He knows that's part of his responsibility, and hopefully he'll start getting that done.
I'm curious too about the role that the governor plays in all of this, and we just talked a little bit with President Regier, and his impression and I think dismay is that the governor's budget is pre-cooked, and there's limited conversation between the governor's office and Republican leadership in the Senate, and the president said he has reached out multiple times, but it doesn't seem to be a two-way street. And I was just curious from your end if there's back and forth conversation, and if so, how that goes.
Yeah, I haven't talked to the governor much about his budget. We meet with him normally today, but he is out of state, so we did not meet today. We've talked about his priorities when we meet with him, and probably in general terms about his budget, but not in a lot of detail. And our members are active in each of the appropriation subcommittees and our budget subcommittees. And they're making changes. They already made some changes in Section A from what was proposed by the governor's budget. So I think pre-cooked is a little too strong a word. I think governor's done his duty and brought us a budget, and now over the next week to 2 weeks, you're gonna see the work of the committees and where they evaluate the proposals that are part of the governor's budget and see how they respond to that. And I fully expect there's gonna be some changes in every one of those committees.
And when you say you have a typical meeting Tuesday, is that you with the governor's budget director, or who?
He's in the room, but I mean,
Okay.
it's primarily a conversation between Katie and I and the governor.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's every Tuesday?
Mhm.
Huh, okay,
We
thanks.
can just ask for updates or bring up anything that we find interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of things we find interesting with the governor's budget, on the appropriation side, obviously that's stems from the House. There was some reporting by our colleagues with the newspapers of the ARPA interest slush fund, which has been raised as a concern by some people. The Senate president said he had some concerns about the appearance of this kind of discretionary spending. How are you guys viewing that? On the House side, obviously appropriations
Yes.
do go through you first.
Yes, so Representative Cafaro is the vice chair of House Appropes. She's been around for quite some time in the legislature and very experienced, and so she did comment, I believe in another article, that it's not something she's seen often before. And I believe, I mean, from my hearing, what I am hearing is that Representative Falk may bring an amendment to bring the interest fund into the general fund. So I don't think that's been produced yet in a way that we see, or if it's been voted on,
No, I think
but,
he might have done something this
so
morning,
that's
but
the
I-
latest action is, would House Appropes leave it as is or swing it in? I think Representative Cafaro is having to figure out what that looks like, and if the House Democrats will help swing that interest pot into the general fund. And so it's something we'll have to act on soon.
Is that something that you feel is best suited for the general fund?
It may be. I don't wanna like give a hard and fast comment now without having talked to Mary,
Mhm.
but I mean, it's interesting, right? And she hasn't seen it before, and so I think she's having to do some homework and figure out if that's the right thing to do or which amount or something like that. I mean, I've never had this before, so I would say stay tuned to House Appropes on that amendment that I believe is coming. Yeah.
Is there anything else in the appropriations process that's kind of popped out at you in terms of like, this is something that maybe should be rethought, or hey, this is something I didn't even realize we spent this time and energy on?
I haven't been flagged anything yet that's interesting for you. I can have that for the next meeting though, and I would love to do that for you,
Yeah.
because that'd be fun to talk about.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a lot of
Yeah.
stuff you guys do
Yeah,
down
I
there.
imagine there's a list of things coming and going out of there, and I can get a list on what Dems are moving for amendments to fund which things, and I can get that, and that'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
great. Do that
Okay.
for next time.
Yeah.
Back to the regular meeting with the governor. Is that something that has happened previous sessions too? It's a weekly
Yeah.
meeting? Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
Kim Abbott used to go.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
And this is one with Democrats only?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
My understanding is he has standing
He does the
meetings
same
with
thing
the
with Republicans.
yeah, I'll
Mhm.
ask him who, cause
Yeah.
I'll ask him who, I wonder if that would be Speaker Lair and,
Yeah, I
I
think it is.
imagine so.
yeah,
And the president, yeah.
I'll ask. And then a totally different topic, but sort of circling back to yesterday, the specter of Elon Musk in
Mhm.
Montana. The governor has talked about, Elon Musk is using Montana as a model. President Regier has said, Montana needs to be more like, follow the lead of Doge.
I see.
Yesterday,
Yeah.
we asked Representative Downing about the influence that that Musk is having, and he said, "Oh, it's really good. It's offering transparency across the board." And I'm just curious for Democrats' reaction.
Yeah, I'm happy to start with at least one thing we're working on in the House, and then feel free to. We have a House joint resolution, I believe, that addresses the, I don't know what to call it, reporting, that's a better way of saying it. That is addressing the reporting that we're hearing in the news about the Doge group going into all these agencies and accessing the personal identifying information of American citizens. And we are asking for our federal delegation to take that seriously and protect the privacy of Montanans who are at risk. I don't have enough information in any way, shape, or form from any news source that what is happening, how it's happening, whose data has been accessed and whose has not. And so we are at least offering a resolution to kind of demand some sort of action on protecting the data of Montana citizens. I don't know if that will go anywhere, but we'll have a hearing on it hopefully soon, carried by Representative Hawk. And so I guess my comment back is that I find it disturbing that private personally identifying information, including possibly addresses and social security numbers, could be being accessed in a way that could then not be protected and possibly some kind of breach or leak of some kind. And so I would love to have more information on what the federal administration is doing to protect data. It'd be really great to get an update. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would just add that I don't think creating fear and uncertainty and financial devastation for Montana families is good governance. I completely support a new administration or a new governor coming into that position and show an interest in reviewing all the programs and ensure that the delivery is as they think is appropriate and trying to find efficiencies. I think that makes sense. I think coming in and with a broad stroke axing positions, thousands of positions all across the country with no real rationale, with everybody getting a standard letter that says your performance has been subpar and therefore we no longer need your services, I think is incredibly rude and dismissive and unfair to all those federal employees who are working hard, who decided to become public servants and make the sacrifices that go with that. And there are benefits, but a lot of sacrifices as well. And to dismiss all of them so cavalierly, I think, is just disgusting.
In that same vein, I know we're trying to piece together the number of those federal employees who are Montanans. I know we've got several hundred in the Forest Service and a number from Park Service and EPA in our region. Have you heard from constituents or heard anecdotes of the effects to Montanans specifically?
To start?
Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, yes, in that we receive calls. I've talked to people that currently are employed by the federal government who are concerned and they just don't feel like they know enough. And so every day, they live in Helena and they like, oh, should I go to my job today? I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. So I've heard from some folks who haven't been fired yet, but anticipate it. One of our caucus members, his husband was let go on one of the first days that all the federal freezes started to happen, and he's lost his job. And so we heard about that. And then, Representative Toss works in economic development, and he expressed concerns from his office in Havre for how would it impact small business loans, grants, programming to help boost the economy in rural Montana. And so those are some examples of stuff I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is really disturbing is these kind of chainsaw cuts completely ignore the importance of those positions in Montana. So whether it's, folks working in the Forest Service or the Bureau of Land Management, they're working on grazing permits or doing preparation for the coming fire season. There's no regard for any of that and the importance of those positions. It's just, we're gonna take all these positions and just whack them, and it's just so irresponsible. It's astounding.
I think that's it for me today.
Okay.
Appreciate the time though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anything
thanks.
else for you?